Hello everybody, in today's video we're going to be talking about 5 really good throwing and catching games that you can play with 4 to 11 year olds to help them have fun, get better at throwing and making sure that they're safe at the same time. So why do we need to work on throwing and catching games? Well, it's one of the fundamental movement skills that children need to have. They need to have it as one of their building blocks into helping them get better at other sports. So this fundamental skill of throwing and catching is so important for them as they get older, making sure if you want children to stay active for longer periods of time, they need to enjoy PE, they need to enjoy sports, and they're not going to enjoy lots of different games that include throwing and catching if they're not very good at throwing and catching. So it's your responsibility to make sure that you get your children as active as possible in your lessons. And what you're going to notice in my 5 games today is that they are games. They are not drills. We're going to kill the drill. We're going to make them really fun games, almost where the children don't even realise how many times they're throwing and catching in your session. So we're going to be working on these 5 games, and I think it's really going to help you identify what you need to do in your lessons to make sure that the children have a good time. So our first activity is one that you're all going to know. It is dodgeball. Okay, and the reason I play dodgeball is because it's so fun. The kids absolutely love it. You've got to manage it well, but the amount of times they're going to be throwing the ball in this session is fantastic. You're going to get lots and lots of times. That's exactly what you want in your lessons. So what you're going to have is just a few rules that you need to be aware of. So the rules I like to play is that if you get hit, you have to sit down exactly where you are. Okay, and then the only way you can get back in is by someone coming to tap you on the back. The reason I do that is because ideally I don't want this person out for more than 15 seconds. If he plays a traditional dodgeball game where he has to go and sit on the edge waiting until everybody else finishes, he's not going to get any better at throwing and catching. So maybe his mate comes and taps him on the back and he's back in the game and he's back into throwing and catching. So just think about a few rules that you're going to have with this. I like to play that headshots don't count, but anywhere else on the body does. So even if they go to catch it and they drop it, they would be out. If I do catch it, the person who threw it is out. If the ball has hit the floor and then hits me, I'm not out, and I'm not allowed to go onto the other side. But the reason you're doing this is you want kids to be having a lot of fun, a lot of practice with it. Now, what you hopefully can get into is then the teaching points, right? How are you going to throw a ball more accurately? How are you going to throw it with some power on there? How are you going to hold the ball? And you can still get all your teaching points into this lesson, but in a more fun, engaging way rather than just doing the standard drill of just throwing a ball back and forth. Okay, so this is going to be a really good one for you to do with your children. So my second game is called Splat or Splat Tag, and this is a really good one. It doesn't matter how many kids you've got. You could have 100 children. It doesn't really matter. But let's say you're going to give them all they're all going to be in your area, and about a third of the group are going to have a bib on them. In America, they call it a penny. Okay, so I've got a third of my group has a bib, and what you need to do is try and throw your bib at somebody else. Now, if it hits them, then you have to they have to pick up that bib, and now they have to try and get somebody else. Obviously, if I throw it at somebody and I don't hit them, then I need to go and pick it up. Okay, so the way you can gamify this is that you maybe do it for a minute, and at the end of every minute you go 3, 2, 1, stop. Anyone who's got a bib at that time doesn't get a point, but everybody else does. Okay, so and then it's maybe the first person to get 5 points wins, something like that. Just to keep it active and engaged. And they're practicing that throwing technique, which is going to help them. You're using a bib because it's so soft, it's not going to hurt anybody. The only thing you might get is if they're throwing it at the feet, they might get caught up and trip over on their feet. So I would try and play it on grass if you can. So just be aware of that. But it's quite unlikely to happen anyway. But it's something you might need to think about. But again, that throwing technique, they're going to be doing it lots. And if you find they're not throwing as much as I'd like them to, just throw more bibs in there. Okay, so that will really help you with your lessons. And it's just nice little warm-up activity, or it could be your main session, however you want to do it. Make it a game at the end. It's a really good way to do some throwing and catching. Okay guys, so the third game that we're going to be playing is called Prison Break, and the way this works is this is a really fun game, to be fair. So you're going to have lots of children throughout the area on both teams or both sides of here, and the way it works is you just go create a little safety area around the goal. Now in here I've got maybe tennis balls, I've got bibs, it's just something for them to practice their throwing with. And the way it works is if one of these people can get all the way into this area without getting tapped, then, or even better, you can have tag rugby belts on or a bib down your shorts. And if your bib gets taken as you're running to try and get one of the balls, then you have to go back. So you'd have to go all the way back to where you were, put your bib back in, and you can play again. Okay, so this is a really good game that if you do get into there without getting tapped by anybody else, then this is your safe zone, and this is a safe. So this is safe, and so is this. So is this area, and so is this whole area here. Okay, so you can, once you're in there, you can pick up a ball or a bib, and then what you're going to do is try and throw it into this area. And again, nobody can intercept this ball. Once you're there, you're safe. And then you're going to be practicing. You might have to throw it halfway, and then throw it into your goal. Okay, once it's in your goal, you're not allowed in that safe zone anyway. So then you're going to try and start again. So you could either try and defend the other team coming into your area, or you're going to be quite an attacking player, try and get the balls, get the bibs or whatever they are in the middle here. And you could have gone out that way, or you could have gone that way. Now, obviously, this person might have got into there, picked up a ball, and gone into that safe zone. Now, these people are not allowed to compete with each other. So they just have to ignore each other, basically, as they play, and they are throwing it. So they're not allowed to move with the ball. They have to throw it, run to where it was, and then go again. Okay, now if you want to introduce some catching as well, you can put people in pairs, and once one of them's in there, then their partner can come into the safe zone, and they throw it to their partner. If the ball touches the floor, however, you have to go, you have to put it back where it came from. Something like that, but it's a really good way. It's called Prison Break, and you're trying to, maybe you pause it every 5 minutes, you count up how many points they have in this goal, how many points they have in this goal, and you can go from there. But it's a nice little game. You probably don't want to, it depends, realistically, if I had 30 children, I'd probably try and set up 3 pitches doing the exact same thing. You might get away with it with 30, depends on the age that you're working with, but either way, you get the idea. You can adapt that as you like, but it's just, again, it's a game. It's not a drill, but it's a game which involves throwing and catching, and hopefully they get better at that through doing that game. Brilliant. So we're now moving into a bit more of the catching games, and this is going to be really good for your children, whether they're 4 years old or 11 years old. You're just going to adapt the equipment. But what I'm going to have is ideally a load of tennis nets in a line all the way down. You might just have to use cones as a line, or just use a line on the playground, whatever you've got. And I'm working, and it's basically volleyball. So if I'm working with 4-year-olds, I'm going to have a balloon, a blown up balloon, and they have to try and throw it onto their partner's side. So you just put them in pairs all the way along. I won't do the whole thing, but just so you get an idea. And they have to try and throw it onto their partner's side, the balloon, and make it touch the floor. Now, obviously, their partner needs to try and run to the balloon and catch it before it touches the floor. Okay, now, if I'm doing this with some older children, maybe 7 or 8-year-olds, what I might do is use a tennis ball. Okay, for example, I could do that, but rather than like on the first bounce, if it bounces 2 times, then the other person wins. But you're trying to only let it bounce once. So wherever you are in the court, that person has to try and throw it so that it can land twice. Okay, so it's a fun way of doing it. And then if you're working with even older age groups, I'd use a shuttlecock from badminton, and they've got to try and throw it because it's going to take longer for it to fall. So they've got a bit more time, but it should be quicker than 2 bounces. So yeah, work with those 3 bits of equipment, or adapt however you like. But it's volleyball, and you're working on the throwing, you're working on the catching, and it should be a very good way of, again, gamifying what could be a boring throwing and catching drill, which is what you see time and time again, and it's just kids they tune out really quick. Instead, you're making it a game. And again, you could play this, right? You get a point every time the tennis ball lands twice, and you could play this as your championship, like your Premier League to your League 10 or whatever it is, and they move up and down with each win. It might be that you're just playing it as a game and you just mix up the partners. But playing a game, yes, you can still pause it. Yes, you can still talk about coaching, catching or throwing techniques, but it's gamifying what maybe is sometimes too much of the time. It's a drill. We're killing the drill, and we're going to put a game in here. So this is just a really good one that I like to do. Volleyballs, mix up the different equipment and go from there. So yeah, hopefully that gives you another idea. Again, you can go and adapt that however you like to make it work for your kids. And finally, onto our fifth one, and this is just a game of distance throwing. Okay, so this is your standard athletics throwing game, and you are just working on how far you can throw a tennis ball or a cricket ball or whatever it is. Okay, now when you are doing this, you're going to have, ideally you would have set out a tape measure, and you can actually count, but even if you need to, just do like 1 step, 2 step, just put a cone for each one so that they can see. Now the big thing with any throwing game like this where you're measuring the distance is that do not just do a massive line like this with one person throwing and it's 2 lines. No, it should probably be a max, sorry, squeaky, a max of 2 children in a line, and you should maybe try and get, if you've got a class of 30, there should be 15 people all the way along, and they're sharing a tennis ball, okay? And this person, when it's time to throw, they're allowed to throw, say it lands here, and then rolls all the way off. You're going to give them a cone. They go and put their cone exactly where it landed. They go and collect their bit of equipment, bring it back, give it to their partner, and they have a go. And you're really going to work on the throwing technique here, but again, they're sort of having a bit of a game either against each other or just against themselves, and they're trying to move that cone as far away as possible. They have to stay behind the line, and it's getting them ready for an athletic style competition where you wouldn't be allowed to run out and collect your stuff straight away. No, you have to wait until everybody else is done. And it's just a nice little game, especially in summer, if you've got a good amount of space and hot. What you might not want is kids running around too much because it's so hot. You can actually just play a game like this. So you have to be aware of it. But this is, either way, this person's only going to have to wait around for one go. This is why we don't want massive long lines, because they just get really bored. They can get cold. They can get disengaged in the lesson. But this way, they could even be coaching their teammate, however you like to do it. But you're more likely to be keeping everybody engaged, and they're going to be seeing their personal best. They're sort of having a game against themselves. So this is a really good game. I like to do this one in summer. Depends on the age group. You might get away with it with younger age groups. Definitely your older age group, 7 to 11. But you know your kids, so see how it goes. But that is my 5th game. And hopefully in today's video, you've picked up some of the coaching points that I would bring into my own lessons, but don't feel like you just have to do exactly what I've said here. Just go away and experiment with different things, but you're trying to get in lots and lots of time to practice. You as a teacher might think that you're helping by stopping and talking for 2 or 3 minutes about how to throw a ball properly, but some of these children, this is their only time that they practice throwing. They don't do it when they go home. They don't do it on the weekends. They only do it in PE, and it's your responsibility to give them that chance, that opportunity to really get better at it. And hopefully a lot of these games will help you with that. So hope your lessons go well. If you have enjoyed today's video, please do like, comment and subscribe. My name is Charlie Hiscox from U Sports, and I'll see you in the next video.